Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about the powerful full moon we have here on July 23rd, 2021. Now is a time when something new and big is trying to come into your life. Could be a new partner, a new relationship, a soulmate. Could be a new career, a new large scale, I would say, lifestyle shifting project or endeavor. You might not know in fullness what it is and how it's going to look in your life, but if you can step back and go with the flow, something new and exciting is really trying to be born through you into your life at this time. And this thing that's coming in is going to be very exciting to you. It's going to feel very resonant and authentic because unlike previously in our lives, where most of us, if we're honest, have created a lot of things very unconsciously, born out of our conditioning, our inauthenticity. What's trying to come through is like maybe the purest thing, the purest version of you trying to come into your life. And so you're gonna love it, is what I'm trying to say. But as I always do, my friend, here are 5 more specific and grounded themes that you can look forward to during this full moon period. Number 1, I wrote down high on spirit. What I mean by that is that you might feel a little bit high. What I mean by that exactly is that sometimes when there's a lot of life force running through us, sort of directing us into our life, it can make us feel like we're running on adrenaline, running on spirit, and you might find fluctuations as a result in your physical energy. Because on one hand, your soul, your spirit, you're like channeling your way through life. Even if you're doing something mundane, like we're in this new home and putting the books on the shelf, as an example, was very stimulating for me. But because our bodies are still adjusting to these higher frequencies flowing through us, you might find yourself zooming and then conked out, feeling out of it. It's okay. It's just sort of the vibration we're in right now. You might find it to be more challenging than usual to stay grounded and balanced and neutral. You might find yourself floating away with the different things you have going on in your life. And this is not good, it's not bad. What I have learned, however, before I move on, is that I always try to leave a little gas in the tank. In the past, I would just let this energy burn me out tremendously. And I learned I had to use some semblance of restraint and mindfulness to keep a little gas in the tank. Number 2 is going to sound a little bit strange. Hear me out. Seeing the devils in the world. You might be able to a clearer degree, see the ego, the ego essence in life, in the world, more clearly, more visibly than usual. The evils, the unconsciousness, and in the myriad of ways in which they manifest, you will be able to see more clearly. Now, if you're wise, especially if you see something you really don't like, that really rubs you the wrong way, you can use that as kind of a mirror. Because whatever you see out there that you don't like, if you really are bugged by it, because there's some element of that energy within you still. And you can use these mirrors, our reality, and all the negative, low vibe people you might see and whatnot, and the way they're conducting themselves, and you could turn it back and say, well, how am I exemplifying that energy in my life? And if you can look really closely and really honestly with open eyes, you'll see. And then you get to shift your ways. You get to be the change you want to see in the world. And you can use these negative expressions of life that are still present in all of our reality, whether we want to like it or not. They're there. Right now we can use them as a catalyst for our own transformation. And it can be very powerful. And that is how you really change the world. That is how you change and help other people, just by working on yourself. But it's not easy. It's very easy to see the demons in other people. It's not so easy or comfortable to see it within ourselves. Number 3 is a phenomenal time to find your tribe and thrive. Find your tribe and thrive. Say that 3 times. No, just kidding. It's a time of connection. It's a time of coming together. It's a time of working with other people. And boy, what a power and what a joy that is. What sparked this inspiration was the other night my family and I were watching Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. Amazing movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it. And just the camaraderie, the synergy that these football players were able to conjure up and use for a lot of really positive things, actually, besides football, was so, you could feel it from the TV. You could feel it. It was so inspiring. I just, yesterday morning, in fact, ran an online breathwork ceremony. And I told them, I said, and I had to say this a couple of times, these last 2 ceremonies, because of the tribe, because of the group, that oftentimes as I'm holding space for people and guiding it, I try to step back. I try not to be too enmeshed in what's going on. But the depth of transformation that I witnessed these people putting themselves through, not very little to do with Victor, but they were working this magic. It brought me to tears to see it. There was a power, a magnetism, a synergy, just an aura of incredible transformation. And it's not because of what I was saying or what we were doing. It was because many people came together. They came together and they let their truth come through, and they all had the same intention: to transform, to heal, and to expand. And my goodness, it was explosive. It really was. You could feel it. You could feel it out of the freaking computer. It was magic. And right now, in your own life, in your own way, you might find, where there wasn't before, more opportunities to come together with other like-minded, like-vibration people. And it's going to be amazing for you, amazing for them, amazing for the world. Some of you might have to push outside of your comfort zone a little bit, though. A lot of times we want community, but we have a lot of these barriers, like, you know what? I'm used to not liking people. I'm used to letting my guard down and getting burned by people. You may have had that happen in past friendships and past relationships. You might have seen that dynamic playing out with your parents a little bit, relationship dynamics. So as you're finding your tribe, you may be confronted with the awareness of certain relationship types of blocks that you're carrying. And it's a phenomenal time to move through those and to let those go permanently. And the payoff is new relationships, or a newness being brought into an existing relationship. More love, more harmony, more connection, less fear, less having your guard up, more allowing in. And it's an amazing time for all of that. Number 4, it's a time where it's imperative that you finally take your foot off the brakes. So many of us, all of us, me too, for the most part, have been trying to go forward with one foot on the gas pedal and the other foot on the freaking brakes. And it's like, we're getting these up and down. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, sort of dynamic. An opportunity comes, we go for it, and then we sabotage ourselves. We zap ourselves back into our familiar, back into our comfort zone. My friend Aaron Dowdy, whenever he gives a talk, he oftentimes has this perfect analogy where he will point to like a thermostat on the wall. And he says, you know, most people like their house what? I know I like mine between like 72 and 74, 75. That's my comfort zone, right? When it gets beyond, when the house heats up beyond 75, what happens? The thermostat kicks on and it brings it down. Same thing happens when it gets too cold, it brings it back up. It keeps it in that happy medium. And a lot of us, for all of our life, have been operating through life with a very narrow bandwidth of what's comfortable, what's familiar, what's normal. Well, right now we're transforming big time. And you're being called into these new things, new people coming in, drawing you way outside of that bandwidth. And for a long time, you might have in oftentimes very sneaky, subtle, unconscious ways, brought yourself back down, held yourself down from the things you treasure, the things you want in life. Well, your energy, my friend, is getting so powerful. You can't really be doing that anymore. And what you'll find is that you'll start to become aware of the ways in which you do that, so that you can stop doing it. Perfect example. A couple years, 2-3 years, about three years ago, I'm gonna say, I was trying to build my YouTube channel. As you see here, I was putting a lot of energy into my YouTube channel, and finally I had this one video start to go viral. Where every time I'd click it, there's like 5,000 more views. It got hundreds of thousands of views in a few short days. I was getting over 1,000 YouTube subscribers every single day for multiple days in a row. And once I first caught wind of that crazy exponential momentum, guess how I felt? Excited? You did it, great. No, I felt a phenomenal, visceral wave of fear and almost terror and anxiety wash over me. Somehow, something I wanted for so long, my mind decided was bad, wrong. Because why? It took me way outside of that narrow bandwidth where little Victor felt comfortable. And a lot of times I would rationalize and justify the fear and think, oh, maybe there is a problem. Maybe I shouldn't go too hard. Maybe putting all this energy into YouTube will be bad for my health. I used to have a lot of fear that it's going to make me a bad parent. All these different justifications for the fear. I would keep myself small. But again, it's getting too hard. You won't be able to keep your foot is going to be popping off the brakes whether you like it or not, and it's a phenomenal time to do so. Let your foot off the brakes. Let in the things you want, the love, the abundance, the success. What is it you really want? There's nothing wrong with a heart's desire. Allow it to come into your life. It's ready, it's right there. All you got to do is stop pushing it away. And this full moon's a great opportunity to discover and to have revealed before you all the little sneaky ways in which you've kept your foot on the brake, the ways in which you push away the things you actually want. And lastly, number 5, it's gotta be you. It has to be you. There's a quote I read the other day from an amazing book that I can't recommend enough. Where is it, in fact? I don't have it around. It's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello, I believe. And he's a really interesting guy. He's like one of the enlightened masters, like an Eckhart Tolle or Adishanti or Sadhguru. But he writes in a very blunt, almost crass and crude kind of in-your-face kind of way. I love it. It's funny. Anyways, there's this quote. I don't even know if it's his, actually. It says, the greatest guru in the world can't take a single step for you. For a while, our spiritual journey just tends to kind of unfold effortlessly, synchronistically. Things happen. The magic of reality is revealed to us, and we just sort of flow around. And then after time goes on, it usually leads us kind of into like a dark night of the soul. The pink cloud bursts, we're going through our healing, and that can last a while. And after all that, many of us find ourselves looking around like, man, I seem to have put a lot of effort into my life. And why am I still in this situation, this circumstance that I don't prefer? I think I should be a lot further along. And there can be this period of stagnancy, of waiting, of like nothing's happening. The magic's gone. The synchronicities are coming here and there. Little ideas might come to you piece by piece, but nothing enough to go on. And we find ourselves waiting and waiting and waiting some more, waiting for a dream, waiting for a download, waiting for a spirit guide to tell us what to do. There comes a time when where like the reins shift to you, where the next leg of your journey is for you to take as best you can, knowing you're going to fall and make a mistake and slip around a little bit, but it's time for you to go forward And it can be the hardest thing to do. It's not easy. It reminds me of my wife, who's actually back there in the distance. I tried to block her. I remember a couple years ago, and many of you know, she's on this medicine path, really into shamanism and plants and whatnot. And her teachers a couple years ago said, Patty, you're going to have to sing. My wife's an amazing singer, by the way. But she, the idea of singing in an ayahuasca ceremony, it was so terrifying to her. She was so scared. And then she had all these ideas of why she can't do it, and it's not time, yada, yada. And her teachers were like, I know, but you're still going to have to sing at some point. And she said this one time, it was during ceremony, maybe a few months after that moment I just explained. And her teacher came up during ceremony and said, Patty, are you ready to sing? And I forgot how it went, but I think she agreed at some point, reluctantly. And there came this moment where the other teachers finished their song. There was silence, maybe a little purging going on, but it was time for Patty to sing. And the nerves, as she explained, were just so real, so palpable. She was terrified. She couldn't even remember the words because of the anxiety. And something inside of her said, just start, just sing. And she did, and she took that first little step on her own, imperfectly, knowing she might mess up, and she just took that step. She voiced out a couple of notes, and then the power flowed through her, boom, like magic. She said she was standing near a wall and it was bouncing back at her, this energy flowing through her. A lot of times it's us that has to meet the universe halfway. We have to take that first step. And then the guidance, the synchronicity, the channeling, whatever it is, it comes through. But if you've been stuck, if you've been stagnant, if you've been waiting far too long, it's time to take one sloppy, messy, potentially dangerous step into the unknown as best you can, knowing full well you might fall, you might slip, you might bump your head, but if you take that step, I promise you, you'll get your bearings. You'll learn what you need to learn. You'll develop the experience, the courage, the confidence, the faith, the trust in yourself. And before you know it, you're singing. And it's effortless again. But if you relate to this, there's nothing to wait on. You've been waiting on yourself, my friends.